tomatoes that are hard to get out the weeds without pulling out the asparagus. Looks like we have a squirrel sampling our green cherry tomatoes. Green is not ripe. And yeah, apparently they don't like unripe tomatoes since they didn't even bother to finish eating it. Welcome back to Home Boundless. We're coming in on the end of July and everything is just wild. Wherever sunflowers decide to grow, sunflowers get to grow. I have a really hard time growing sunflowers where I would like them. I would like them close to the house as a backdrop for my garden, but I don't think they get enough sun there. They're just not happy, so they don't grow there. So they grow wherever they want to. Still waiting on the tomatoes to ripen up. I did have one. Ooh, I can see some of these are about to start ripening too. See, these have just a little kiss of a yellow, red, orange, I guess. They have a little kiss of orange on them. So they'll be ripening up soon. And I did take one yesterday because we had a lot of rain and it was starting to ripen, and I didn't want the squirrels to steal it before I got a chance to. Some squirrel has definitely decided to sample a few of the green ones to see if they were good to eat. And not yet, but I don't want them to get a taste for the ripe ones. I have a whole bunch of volunteer sunflowers in this corner, which they are welcome. My favorite thing is the neighbors. They have a volunteer sunflower in their yard too, just in the middle of the grass, and they've let it go, and that makes me very happy. We have our roses blown over. Normally we don't even get to see our roses this time of year because the Japanese beetles eat them so quickly, but they haven't been as bad this year. But I do need to grab a bucket and pull the petals off because there's probably some beetles hiding inside. Oh, and this little monster of a sunflower, there's like, how many heads do I see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then probably some on the back, maybe one on the side. Yeah, so there's at least 7 or 8 heads on this monster sunflower right next to my strawberry patch. Problem with having a front yard garden is I really can't show you all of its glory without showing you my house. I'm not trying to do that. Yeah, I really should probably not let this milkweed stay right here once we have enough to replace it, because it does lean into the sidewalk. So I want to make sure that we have as much sidewalk width as possible in case there's anyone who has a big stroller or a wheelchair or anything that would need more of the sidewalk. And this year we have a lot of spaghetti squash, which makes me very happy because last year I planted spaghetti squash that I had saved the seed, and it had cross-pollinated with, I think, one of the bumpy summer squash. I don't know. It cross-pollinated with one of the summer squashes that I had that year, and so my spaghetti squash didn't spaghetti. So it made us very sad, and the chickens ended up getting most of them. But this year I have so many spaghetti squash. You can see this guy hiding. Here, let's see. Well, look at me. I'm a big spaghetti squash. Do you see this raspberry? Boop. This is, I think I bought it as a golden raspberry. There you are, son. This is a golden raspberry, but it looks more like a pink champagne. And this is the first one that we've gotten off of these plants. Well, that's kind of a lie. We got like half of one earlier that didn't quite grow correctly, and it was a little not good and a little and very delicious. So sort of half and half. Half of it was not good, half of it was delicious. But this one, delicious. All year long I'm planning next year's garden. And so one thing that I'm going to do next year is I'm going to be a little more sparing when I plant. especially my cucurbits, I have too much squash and too many things all fighting each other. And as much as I love the wildness, and I think even trying to restrain, I'm not going to. I will always plant too many. It's a small garden. I need some redundancy, but I need also a little less wild. And I think we might be a little more productive if it's easier for the bees to get into things. So this is a good little pickling cucumber. I don't know if I remember the name of it. I'll let you know if I do. But I have a batch of quick pickles always in the fridge. When we get in these small harvests of 1 or 2 cucumbers, and I slice them and I add them to the quick pickles. I think if I left these bigger, they would be like good fresh eating cucumbers. But as they are, they work for quick pickles. If I could sneak it in past my child, because she will take it and she will eat it. I need to make sure that I always have gardening gloves on hand, because the prickles got me. I think that this side is just too densely planted. The only thing that really seems to be pollinating successfully are the spaghetti squash. So I don't really want to spend all of my time out here trying to pollinate by hand, so I'll let the bees do their work. But we do have a little baby watermelon. This won't get very big. It'll probably get to be about softball size. But oh, that's a little weird shaped. Maybe that's not fully pollinated either. But yeah, even the spaghetti squash, I'm seeing lots of withered, female flowers. Actually, that one might not have been spaghetti squash, but yeah, that's a spaghetti. Yeah, we're getting a lot of withered female flowers, and yeah, this bed is too densely planted. And that's my fault, because look at little baby tomato, little baby watermelon. When that gets a little bit bigger, I will have to remember to make a little support for it. My big squash drama this year was that I'd already potted up the spaghetti squash so they were safe, but everything else, everything else, cucumbers, watermelon, zucchini, they were all on a potting tray together and in the greenhouse, and the wind shook the greenhouse and they all fell down and I didn't know what was what. So I planted more cucumbers from seed just out in the garden, and I sowed cucumbers. I sowed the cucumbers from seed in the garden, and then I got more zucchini and watermelon, and I don't remember if I got some cucumbers too from the plant sale. So it ended up being too much because it didn't look like the cucumbers were taking, but then of course they took off. So yeah, this bed has too much stuff in it. And like, based on how many spaghetti squash you can see just on the trellises, you would expect, since this is full of spaghetti squash vines, to see a lot of them. And I think the beans have sort of taken over. I see mostly beans. So note to self, plant less beans, plant less spaghetti squash. I also have fertilized this bed really well because this is mostly all of the aged chicken compost, all the chicken bedding. So they're getting a lot of fertility. And we do have some corn. I don't know that we have enough to actually give us any corn, but I don't see any squash in here. I typically have a hard time with spaghetti squash on the ground because the squirrels are more likely to sample it. But it doesn't even look like they tried. So this bed is big and beautiful and green, but I don't think we're going to get a lot of food out of it. So it is what it is. So next year, I know I need to plant more corn and protect it more, and plant less beans, plant less squash, and I might even have some of the other bed used for corn, and maybe use like just half of this for corn and the other half for cabbage and carrots. Really, is that a Japanese beetle? No, that is a bee. That bee butt looked like a Japanese beetle, and I was very confused as to why it was pollinating a squash plant. That's not what they do. Oh, there's so many bees. Nice, fat pollen bags. Good job, bees. Proud of you. Keep it up.